Hey, welcome back. Ed Ponsi here, your FX educator here on behalf of FX Street once again. Hope that you're doing well. Great to be back. Good to be here and ready to rock and roll. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Just taking a quick peek. First of all, it's always good to take a look at your FX Street economic calendar to see what's up. We already talked about how tomorrow is a huge day on the calendar. We did get a lot of numbers out of Europe, and you know how earlier we said um, the ECB might lower their expectations on inflation? Well, I'll tell you, some of the numbers out of Germany earlier. Look at these factory orders numbers. Month over month, it just fell off a cliff, down 2.1%, looking for negative 0.4. And on a year-over-year basis, that knocks it way down from 4.7 to 3.5. Now, that may seem like kind of an esoteric statistic, factory orders, but if you think about it, it's not. Um, Germany is the largest economy in the European Union, out of the countries that comprise the European Union. Germany's economy is the biggest. And it is an export economy, right? So if you think of, what does Germany export? They export a lot of high-tech equipment. I mean, the easy thing to say is BMWs and Mercedes. Okay, we can start there, but where do those come from? They come from factories, right? And then you go to any hospital, right, and you'll see like a lot of this MRI equipment and things of that nature. Those are also German manufactured, right? And just a lot of high-tech equipment. So a lot of that is coming from factories. So if orders for factories in Germany are slowing down, that's really bad news for all of Europe, quite frankly, because um, exports are the engine that pulls Germany, and Germany is the engine that pulls Europe. So and so those, that's so I always keep a close eye on German factory orders. I think it deserves more than just a little yellow sticker. I think you ought to at least give that an orange, right? I think it is kind of a big deal. Um, Germany, in terms of dollar amount of the goods that are exported, I think Germany is only behind China in terms of the dollar amount of goods exported. Of course, that fluctuates as the various currencies fluctuate. But I know that was true not terribly long ago. And I think a lot of people would be, very surprised to hear that. Could it be possible that Germany exports more than the U.S.? Yeah, that could be very possible. Right? And it's all coming from factories. Something to think about. Okay, so that's kind of a big deal. Whereas Australia, I wouldn't worry about factory production in Australia at all. Why? Because Australia, their exports don't come from factories generally. I'm sure there are some factories in Australia. I don't mean to paint with such a broad brush, but Australian exports, generally speaking, come from mines. I like to think of Australia as a rather large mine, with people surfing around the edges, of Australia. But really, it's a mine that and what does that mine produce? Coal, iron ore, copper, gold. And a third of everything that mine produces goes to China. Okay? All right. So anyway, just taking a peek. Housing prices in the UK went up. That's a good sign. Right? Unless you're trying to buy a house in the UK, of course. Then it's a good sign. It's a healthy sign. It's a healthy sign. Let's put it that way. Um, building permits in Canada. You know, you see that drop and you say, oh my gosh, but it's month over month. It's month over month. It's just 1 month. So you cannot attach, you know, maybe too much on it. But, you know, you look for a year over year number like this factory order number. See, this is a month over month factory order, but this is a year over year factory order number. It's like, ouch, right? You look for the year over year number to really get a feel. Month over month, anything can happen, but then you see it year over year and you start to worry a little bit. Okay, crude oil inventories are hitting in about 1 hour and 20 minutes in the US, and usually that creates a short-term trade in Canadian dollar. Today is actually a perfect day for that type of trade because we don't really want to be in anything tomorrow. So it's really kind of a perfect day for a short-term reversal trade in US dollar CAD. So I might set something like that up. You see that we're expecting so it's an inventory measurement. They're going to measure the inventories. They're expecting a drop of about 3.5 million barrels of oil. And however close or however much above or below that figure should cause the price of oil to move. And at the same time, the Canadian dollar should move concurrent with the price of oil. But what often happens, and I would say at this point more often than not, just recently, and this is just anecdotal, just from someone who watches it, it's a big reversal trade. It'll shoot one way and turn. And the question is trying to, like, can you catch the turn? If you can catch the turn, you might be able to make some quick pips. So how do we catch the turn? Well, it could be done strictly by feel. And in other words, we'll go to dollar CAD. I mean, you can try to pick it out on the chart, which is my preferred way of doing it. But I've also seen people try to do this simply by feel. Remember last time, a couple days ago, we said, I'm not really, it's a little bit too early to buy. And it has moved down a little bit since then. I really would prefer to buy this a little bit lower. But for a trade like this is a type of trade that I might be in for 5 minutes to an hour. And so I'm looking at a shorter time frame, maybe a 60-minute time frame. I'm not really worried about the trend, longer-term trends or anything of that nature. I'm looking at the short term, and I'm really thinking in terms of short-term overshooting. What happens is the price of oil tends to overshoot based on these figures. And then you have these computers that tie Canadian dollar to oil. So as oil overshoots and then reverses, Canadian dollar tends to do the same. Excuse me, one moment, I'm about to cough and I don't want you to go through it. There, that wasn't so bad. Hit the mute button just in time. All right then. So we're on the 1 hour now on dollar CAD, which has been slowly sinking. And this has more to do with the dollar than it does with oil, in my opinion. Just taking a quick peek around here. If it pops up, there's some resistance up in here, maybe about 40 or 50 pips higher. If it shoots down, that's a little tricky. Down here looks interesting. That's about 50 pips down. So we're talking about 40 pips higher or 50 pips lower I would be looking for the reversal. And I'm not predicting which way it's going to go. It's really important to understand that. I have no idea which way it's going to go. I don't know if the inventory is going to come out above or below expectations, and I'm not trying to predict this. I have no intention of trying to predict that. Okay? It's not my place to try to guess that. All I care about is trying to guess where the buyers are going to buy or where the sellers are going to sell. And I think I have a fairly good idea based on this chart. About 134.80 or 133.90. And that's just simply based on he had a nice reversal here, and he had a really nice reversal here. So I think I'd rather be a buyer than a seller on this one. Okay. Now, one of the things I like to do is look at oil to see if oil kind of agrees with what I'm looking at. Does oil does agree with what I said as far as buying it on a drop. Doesn't really agree quite so much as selling it on a rally. Maybe a little bit. But buying it on a dip seems to be the safer bet. I'm talking about for a short-term trade. And buying it on the dip seems to make more sense. So maybe I just ignore it if it pops up. And I buy it if it dips below 134, I start to buy. And I try to, all right, so again, if it comes down around 47, that should be enough to push oil down to around 134. I might have more than one entry. I might enter around 134. I might buy a little bit more around 133.90. Try to ride it back up to where it is now, around 134.40. So we're going to try to make 40 pips or so. If it doesn't pop right back, I just take whatever it gives me. I'm not going to sit here all day trying to squeeze it out. Back to dollar CAD. So I'll try to buy it down here. I'm not as enthusiastic about selling it up here. Maybe I don't sell it up here. If it pops up, maybe I just leave it alone. But if it comes down, maybe I just buy it down here. And I'll just try to get back to where I bought it. And if I can't get back to where I bought it, I just take whatever I get. Just take what you get and don't get upset, right? That's what I always tell my kid at dinner time. You get what you get and you don't get upset. You take what the market gives you, right? And that's a good lesson for traders too, right? You just take whatever's, whatever is available, you take it, and that's you're happy with it. So that's kind of how I think I'm going to play that. And again, that comes out in 1 hour and 10 minutes from now. That's every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. New York time. So for my friends in London, I guess that's going to be 3:30 p.m. Energy Information Association, that's EIA, crude oil inventory, crude oil stocks change. And you can see the inventories have been falling. One of the interesting things that keeps happening is as OPEC has been reducing production, production has increased in the U.S. and elsewhere. And now the news is saying that deep water production of oil is getting cheaper. So a lot of these deep water wells are now becoming more efficient, more price efficient, and they're going to start pumping more oil. So no matter what they seem to do at OPEC, they cannot seem to drive the price higher. It's very interesting. Question coming in. Ed, I have some Aussie Canada. I bought at 99.60s and still waiting for target price 101.80. What's your take on target price 2 at 101.80? Let's take a look at Aussie CAD, which is a fascinating currency pair. I always think of it as it's two commodity currencies against each other. So just one more look at dollar CAD here before we leave it behind, because this happens in 1 hour. I'm looking to buy it around 134, maybe a little lower. So Aussie CAD. And this is the battle of the commodity currencies, right? That trend line is firmly broken. We can get rid of that. Carlos says, bought some at the 99.60s. Well, congratulations, Carlos. Got some down here. And you can't beat that. You can't beat that for an entry. Wow. And Aussie just smoking Canada. And again, part of that is Canada pumps oil. Australia basically does not. So very nice entry. And so I'll put that as green for go. Pardon me. Something going around the house here. Waiting for price target at 101.80. Oh, you're close. That's right here. God, you're close. And that's target 2. So you've already hit target 1. You've already raised your stop. What's my take on that is target 2. I think that's a great target. Look, it would be so easy for me to come in at this point and say, well, you should have sold it a little bit sooner. You know what I mean? Like that's just so wrong of me to say something like that, I mean, it's a perfectly good target. You had a sharp drop from higher up, and then there was a pause and another sharp drop. It's a perfect entry on a turning point, and it looks like a perfect exit. I mean, to be fair, not knowing ahead of time. Oh, 102.80. Is 101.80 a target and 102.80? Or just 102.80? Let me back this down a little bit. Both of them. Look, it would be very unfair of me to come in and say, well, you should have got out earlier. You know what I mean? Because now you can look at it after the fact. And I hate after the fact people. You know what I mean? You should have done this and you should have done that. Because that's completely useless. To me, it looks like a great target to be perfectly objective. I think it's a great target because to me, a very good move started at that point. And same thing with your second target. I think your entry, your targets are fine the way they are. I don't think you've done anything wrong. I do think there's such a thing as sometimes the market doesn't cooperate. But I love the fact that you play the big game. And I realize not everybody wants to do that, but it's beautiful when people do it. And look at this, you're up 300 pips on the trade, and you're close to your target, and now you're heading into major risk. Right? And it wasn't strong when you bought it, but man, look at the 4K. And probably the more effective way to reduce risk is to make the position size smaller, because that's the one thing that they can't. Much more likely to stop somewhere in here with all this resistance. Just remember that when they started using those measuring targets, that was before they had charts, like, and personal computers and stuff like that. So they were drawing those charts on the back of a notepad. And that's why they came up with measuring targets. It's all they had. They didn't have anything else. So don't take the measuring thing too seriously. I think that should be left in the dust, quite frankly. But I'll still pull it up, because to me, like, if a measuring target coincides with support and resistance, then you might be onto something. But actual support and resistance to me is more important than a measuring target any day. Okay, so I would say, is that going to 150? Nah, it's probably going to 152. Could go to 152 though, and that's a long way. That's 400 pips from here. 400 pips, nothing wrong with 400 pips, right? We'll take it. We'll take that. Okay. All right, gang, that's going to wrap it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though. Tomorrow is going to be interesting, to say the least, right? We've got Mario Draghi in the morning. We've got the FBI in later in the morning, and we've got the British election all day. So tomorrow's going to be interesting. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. And then, yeah, lots of opportunities after tomorrow. Like, we'll see where the dust settles, and that should open some doors, right? Then we'll see where everything lands, and then that should push the prices to areas where we can place some trades. All right, that's going to do it for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care.